One handshake. That's all it took. Democratic Senator John Fetterman is facing backlash after shaking hands with President Donald Trump during the State of the Union. Not endorsing him, not praising him, just shaking his hand. So, why is that controversial? Is this basic civility or political normalization? Is Fetterman reading Pennsylvania voters correctly? And what does this say about where the Democratic Party is heading? Let's break it down.
Senator Fetterman, thank you so much for being here.
Good to be back.
Why did you think it was important to shake President Trump's hand?
Well, of course, that's the president. You don't have to agree with everything. You can be in a different party. I think it's just basic respect and courtesy, whether it's for the office or whether it's just kind of, I can't think we can get to the place where, the State of the Union can't turn into like the Springer show.
Do you think your colleagues, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, conducted themselves the right way by that metric?
I'm saying I just disagree with that. I'm not going to criticize it, but I'm going to say that's just not something I choose. And I think I walked around and I realized that half my colleagues were gone. And now if they want to boycott it, that's their choice. But I think overall, I don't see that coming back to, I remember back in 2009 when, I forget his name, Joe Wilson, yelled. That was really provocative and shocking to people. And that had bipartisan, they condemned that. And now here it's just part of the now where it's just kind of like here it is. So I think something's lost when, if that becomes like the new normal.
Do you think President Trump is responsible for that new normal?
I think we're all part of it too, and I do think we have to find a way. If we can be in the same room, we can disagree on these things. You don't have to sign off on everything. You don't have to agree with everything. And now, if I hear something that I agree with or I like that, hey, I'm going to stand up and clap for those things. And I think, and if someone's angry that I shook the president's hand as he walked in, I think that's on them. And I think some of the people that were angry that I did that, they didn't really have a problem when Mandami visited with the White House too. So like if we refuse to talk to the other side, that's the only one that really loses, that's America.
Some people were surprised you wore a suit and tie.
I'm not sure why that's news. Yes, I do. I do dress like a slob, but for me, I'm gonna respect the event. Respect that's the dress code, of course. So for me, it was an opportunity to hear these things, and I think there was enough there that I could say, hey, I want to acknowledge that I think that's a good thing.
You obviously have spoken with President Trump. You've met with him in the past. What was the last time you spoke to him privately?
No, it's just one of the things that was perhaps might make unique amongst the Democrats. I supported the Iranian strike last year, and I think every single senator in this agrees that we can never allow Iran to acquire a nuclear weapon. And if we all agree with that, I think harsh language won't be the solution. And now we've all discovered that a treaty or those kind of negotiations were unsuccessful. So the one thing that really did matter, and I think was impactful, was those kinetic kinds of strikes. And now here we might be again, where now they have another issue in that those missiles that they have. And now China is selling those hypersonic missiles there. That's outrageous. That's effectively, the Chinese are selling that technology that would be aimed right at American ships, and I'll call and hold them accountable for that.
So would you urge President Trump to strike Iran in the interest of regime change there?
Well, I do think if you can, Iran absolutely wants to acquire a nuclear bomb, and Iran has done, they built up Hamas and Hezbollah and Houthis. So clearly, and now Iran executed tens of thousands of their young people, and now the brutality for that. So, Iran and that regime, the war is never about the Iranian people. Actually, their war was also against Iranian people. But for me, it's about the regime. And now here it's teetering. And now here we are. So that's why I would not vote for the Iranian powers resolution, because the president will need to have the flexibility for these kinds of targeted attacks.
Fair enough. Let's turn to the midterm elections for a second. This message the president delivered, obviously very much aimed at that. Do you think it would be good for the country for Democrats to retake at least one chamber of Congress in the fall?
I want a Democrat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so then it would be a good thing.
I think that is the question.
I mean, the House. I mean, you don't need to have a degree to know that. Yeah, that's going to happen. I mean, that's not just it's a fact. Just look at the history. You know, the party in power. There's backlash, and now it's already. I think the margin's already just a couple seats already. So yeah, that'll flip. And now if the Senate might be in play. So and that means it. So for me, as someone the only one I think that's flipped a red seat for blue, and now that makes it even mathematically possible to regain the majority here in the Senate.
And you still fully intend to continue to be part of the Democratic Party no matter what?
We've talked about this.
I know we have.
It's just it's like the numbers bear it out. I vote in the 90s%, of that. I mean, you can look it up. It's a fact. I'm not changing the party, and I might clap for some things that I agree, but when you represent Pennsylvania, that's there. It's like, hey, we would all love like a blue state, then you can really just have to talk to one side. But for me, it's a special responsibility if you represent Pennsylvania that, we have to find a way forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think the question there really is about the reality that there are some Democrats that are considering challenging you in your race, potentially should you, of course, decide to run for re-election. In a potential re-election, would you want President Trump's endorsement in Pennsylvania?
What I'm saying, it's like anyone's entitled, but it's very strange. If anyone is a Democrat, I'm not sure. It's like the guy that flipped a red seat, and someone now. It's like now my record is solid Democrat. So whatever's possible. So for me, where I'm at, here we are. Don't we all want the kind of Democrat that can flip a seat? That's the one thing that matters. There's no drama. Who's going to be in California or in Massachusetts, where it is and the states that really matter about the big dance, they all come down to those specific kinds of states. And now somebody, in Morning Consult a couple weeks ago, I'm up 15 points. I mean, that's so I think.
Enough.
Yeah, so.
Fair enough. And of course, that big, 2028 could come all the way down to just to Pennsylvania. Senator John Fetterman, thank you.
Democratic Senator John Fetterman is once again at the center of a political storm, and this time, it started with a handshake. After shaking President Donald Trump's hand at the State of the Union, Fetterman sat down for an interview and made something very clear. It's basic respect and courtesy. That's it.
No endorsement.
No policy shift. No party switch. Just a handshake. But in today's hyperpolarized political environment, even basic civility can spark outrage. Fetterman argued that the State of the Union shouldn't turn into what he called the Springer Show. He referenced the infamous 2009 moment when Congressman Joe Wilson shouted, "You lie," at President Obama, a moment that drew bipartisan condemnation at the time. His point, if shouting during speeches once shocked the system and now feels normal, something has changed. And he's not wrong. Political decorum has eroded dramatically over the past decade. Walkouts, boycotts, viral protest moments, they're now part of the playbook. But here's where this gets politically complicated. Fetterman didn't just defend shaking Trump's hand. He also reiterated support for aggressive action toward Iran in certain circumstances and said he would not vote for a war powers resolution limiting presidential flexibility for targeted strikes. That puts him at odds with parts of the Democratic base. At the same time, he made clear he's not leaving the Democratic Party. He emphasized that he votes with Democrats in the 90% range. He also pointed out something strategically important. He flipped a red Senate seat in Pennsylvania. That matters. Pennsylvania isn't California. It isn't Massachusetts. It's a battleground state that often decides national outcomes. Fetterman's argument is straightforward. If Democrats want to win majorities, they need candidates who can win purple states. And that sometimes means projecting independence, even symbolic independence from partisan hostility. He even predicted that the House is likely to flip in the midterms, citing historical patterns where the party in power faces backlash. That's not ideology. That's math. Now, let's zoom out. Why does this moment matter? Because it highlights a growing divide inside the Democratic coalition. One wing prioritizes resistance symbolism. Another prioritizes electoral viability in swing states. Fetterman is clearly positioning himself in the second camp. He's saying you can disagree with Trump on policy strongly while still acknowledging the office and maintaining basic decorum. For some Democrats, that's maturity. For others, it feels like normalization. But here's the political reality. In battleground states like Pennsylvania, voters often reward candidates who appear pragmatic rather than purely partisan. Fetterman knows that. He even dismissed speculation about party switching, calling it very strange, given his voting record. So, what's really happening here? This isn't about a handshake. It's about how Democrats navigate an era where outrage often drives engagement, but coalition building wins elections. Fetterman seems to be betting that voters are exhausted by constant escalation, that civility isn't weakness, and that being able to occupy the same room as political opponents without theatrics is actually a strength. The bigger question heading into the midterms and eventually 2028 is this. Do voters want confrontation as a brand, or results as a strategy? Because in states like Pennsylvania, that answer could determine control of Congress, and maybe the presidency. One handshake won't decide that. But it does reveal where fault lines are forming inside the Democratic Party. And those fault lines are only going to get more visible. Stay informed, stay sharp, and I'll see you in the next one.